throughout the night, but now he's coming.
We may have known it was coming, but that didn't make it any easier when the bomb finally dropped this afternoon. After 157 years, Holden, the little company which began as a saddle maker in Adelaide and grew into one of our most iconic brands, is shutting up shop in Australia. Brian Seymour begins our coverage on what's been dubbed Australian industry's darkest day.
Well, the latest is that while Holden says 2,900 jobs will be lost, the Australian Manufacturing Workers Union suggests it could be as high as 50,000 jobs across the country in associated industries. Certainly, by the end of 2017, Australia will be losing an iconic brand that has been with us since 1948. Now, one thing that the CEO of Holden, Mike Devereaux, did say today was that the dealer network and the salesmen selling Holdens in Australia will remain. And when it comes to people who sell Holdens, there is no one quite like this man, George Valentine. G'day, George.
Hi.
Thanks for talking to us.
Thank you.
Tell us all, how long were you selling Holdens for?
Well, actually, in 1968 I started selling the Holden, and before that I was with Stack & Company, Pontiacs and Chevs, but I was an apprentice mechanic, grew up in the business, went right through it all up until I took on the selling.
Nearly 70 years in the industry.
Sure.
How has it hit you today, this news that there will be no more Holdens made?
Disaster.
Well, why is that? They're saying that the brand will still go on, the plants will be here, that the dealerships will stay. Why does it hurt so much?
Well, I think of all the employees that'll lose their jobs, probably, and and all the other manufacturers that manufacture parts. And service and all the extra work there.
We got the shirt. Look at all this memorabilia here. I mean, that iconic Holden logo and the image. We're losing it, mate. What does it mean to lose such an Australian brand? It's a part of who we are.
No, that's right. Yeah, for sure. It affects me very much. Yeah.
The Queen, when she was out here, toured the factory. Do you remember that?
Right. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot to be said about what your favourite Holden is. I did interview you recently about this, and let's just have a look at that footage down at Sutton's where you were selling Holden still.
Yeah.
Let's just cut to that and have a look at it.
Of all the cars you've seen, all the Holdens you've seen, which is your favourite if you had to pick one to drive?
Oh, that was the EH 64 Holden. That was a great car.
What was so special about that car?
Oh, the EH. It was one of its own. The design, the shape and size. It was ideal for the working man and the family.
As a 16-year-old apprentice mechanic, George was there when the very first Holden rolled off the assembly line.
Australia's Prime Minister, Mr. Chifley, is one of the first to inspect the completed model.
Ben Chifley was the Prime Minister then. He was at the release, and the first car that came off the line, number one. Couldn't get enough of them. Everybody wanted them.
What about foreign-made cars? You've said to me in the past you think that the foreign cars aren't as good. Is that what you think?
Oh, well... There's some pretty good cars out there. Good cars.
People seem to like them, don't they?
But Holden's caught up with them.
Well, the government said it just could no longer afford to keep subsidising, up to $50,000 per worker in that plant. Do you sympathise with that, or do you think it was money well spent?
I think what they should do, they should subsidise the price of a car and get it down to the right price so as that the factory can keep building and the public will get a good, modern, safe motor car at the right price.
Well, maybe they could have looked at doing something more on the retail side, but George, as I say, it's over. It's gone, and thank you for talking to us, mate. I'm sorry to have to talk to you about this on such a sad day for Holden lovers everywhere.
Yeah, for sure.
None more so than you.
Okay.
But thanks for talking to us, George.
Pleasure.
And for now, it's back to you.
Thanks, Brian. As recently as a few days ago, Holden workers were clinging to hope that the company would dig in and fight for survival in Australia. The underlying hope was that the government would offer further assistance. So, not surprisingly, workers were left stunned at today's news. Georgia Main is at Holden's head office.
This has been Holden's head office since the first full-scale factory opened way back in 1936. But it's been more than just the home of an icon. It's a place of innovation, a world leader in motoring technology. But today, there's a funeral atmosphere. Richard Brown has worked here for 17 years.
One minute I got a really good job, and next one I don't. So, yeah, God will provide something.
And what did you do here?
A motor mechanic special test. So wind tunnel testing, noise and vibration, ADR testing. So, yeah.
And is there any chance that you can stay in the same field?
All my skills now, I've been here for 16, 17 years, all my skills don't lend themselves to turning spanners in the real world, so I have to figure something out, go somewhere, do a course, I don't know, teach, I don't know. Might just jump on a tractor too, I just don't know.
Yes, it's not just assembly line workers facing a bleak future. Engineers and experts in far narrower fields are also facing a heartbreaking Christmas.
We've been here for 60 odd years, producing cars, good cars, and we've got the best car. We've got one of the best cars in the world at the moment, right? And no one cares about it. And that's the problem. We're here to 2017, right? And everybody in there will be still dedicated right up till the end.
And what are you going to do after 2017?
Oh, I'll retire. You know what I mean? I mean, it's sad, but that's what I'll do. It was just a fight between the two of them. Who was going to get in? Whether Holden was going to get in or the government was going to get in. And that's the problem. All right? It shouldn't be like that.
It's not the sort of news you want to get just 2 weeks before Christmas. A sad day for a lot of Australian families. Back to you.
Thanks, Georgia. Well, no one symbolises Holden more than the late Peter Brock. For 40 years, the V8 legend made motor racing history and magic behind the wheel of a Holden. A short time ago, we spoke to the woman who stood beside Brocky throughout those glory years, wife Bev. Bev, how did you take the news today?
Look, it's really gut-wrenching for all Australians. This is part of the fabric of Australian society that's going. I have expected it. It's been brewing for some months, and at lunchtime today when I turned the radio on and heard it, my stomach sank, but it is not unexpected.
A sad day for Australia, but also, I'd imagine, a sad day for the Brock family and the Brock name.
If he was still here, he would be absolutely gutted. He'd be devastated.
Peter didn't just symbolise Holden. To many racing fans, he was Holden. How do you think he would have taken the news?
He would have been in there, boots and all, trying to convince anyone and everyone that something needed to happen, something needed to change, that you cannot allow something that is so important a part of, what Australia stands for to disappear. So he wouldn't have accepted this, easily, but he also knew that change is inevitable. Nothing lasts forever.
Holden really is an Australian icon, isn't it, Bev? Perhaps the biggest of them all?
Oh, look, absolutely. Holden is even, to me, it's even bigger than Qantas, and it may just be because of the family name. But I can't help but feel that this won't disappear. I can't help but feel that somewhere somebody will come in, the Chinese, the Indians, who don't have that huge expertise in manufacturing and building cars, and they are enormous growing industries. And I can't help but feel that there will be a change, that this industry won't disappear completely, but in the meantime, everybody is absolutely devastated. And the flow-on effect to all of the support industries, all the car parts, all the manufacturing, is going to be enormous.
For die-hard Brocky fans, this really is an emotional subject, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I know when Ford announced that they were pulling out, that night, parked in a gateway on our property, a Ford was abandoned and set on fire. And I can't help but feeling that came out of a passion for Ford fans, that they were losing something that, was an integral part of their life. And I hate to think of how devastated, what the ramifications will be for the die-hard Holden fans. Now, we know people are buying, imported cars, but there is a huge percentage of the Australian population that will always want to be Ford or Holden, and that will disappear.
Thank you, Bev, for that. Now to the extraordinary untold story behind a notorious barroom glassing incident. 4 long